Hello, everyone, and welcome to Armstrong in the Loop podcast. I'm your host, Seth Prentice, and today I'm joined by Dan Santoro, Cranberry Township Manager. Dan, welcome back to the show.
Thanks, Seth. It's great to be here again.
Dan, first, I want to congratulate you on your new position with the township as the newly appointed Township Manager. Well deserved, and I know we're not going to miss a beat from Jerry retiring. How has your first few months been so far?
The first few months have been great, and thank you, Seth. I mean, when you have a mentor like I did in Jerry Andree for 30 plus years, and you have the opportunity to be with the community in the last few years and be alongside Jerry, that makes the transition very, very easy and smooth. So it's going very well.
Perfect. For those not aware or might want to know more about what your position does, can you briefly explain for our listeners what the Cranberry Township Manager role is for the community?
Sure. So Cranberry Township is governed by a 5-member elected board of supervisors. And, they are our board of directors. They set policy and direction, budget guidance, they adopt the budget. But then they delegate the day-to-day operations to the township manager. So they set policy. The township manager's job is to manage the individual departments in order to achieve that policy within the guidelines that they set. So the day-to-day management of the police department or the sewer department or the public works or parks and recreation department, those day-to-day operations are delegated to the township manager. And as long as we're implementing the policies and directions of the board of supervisors, they allow us to do that day-to-day work with our professional department directors and to get the job done.
Perfect. There were quite a few large projects happening currently as we speak in the township. The tunnel project over on 228, the Freedom Road Bridge, Freedom Road expansion, the Rochester Road meter project. And I'm sure there's some that I'm leaving out here. How are all these projects going, and are you happy with the progress being made?
Yes. Very happy with the progress. In the last year, in the coming years, we're really approaching record types of new infrastructure development within the township. Based on the projects that you talked about, the MSA Thruway, which is a township-led project, and the Freedom Road Bridge, both scheduled to be done this year. The Freedom Road Bridge sooner rather than later. But also the MSA Thruway by June or July on schedule moving forward. They're getting ready to open up the Rochester Road project to finish the second phase of that with the new permanent traffic signal and extending the rest of the lanes all the way out to Graham School Road. You'll begin to see on Freedom Road. We will see construction over the next 4 years, right? Which is the result of the efforts that have been going on and the funding that's been dedicated and committed to the Freedom Road corridor, which will essentially do the widening from the bridge across the turnpike all the way out to the township line. So really excited about where those progresses are the progress of those projects and how they're moving forward. They're all moving within budget and on schedule. But I would have to say, Seth, Cranberry Township and the Board of Supervisors never being one to be satisfied. We are already looking at, because those projects are essentially moving forward in a good way, in a positive way, we're already looking as to what's next. What are the next projects on the horizon? Always looking at the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years. The board at the most recent meeting here will be approving at their meeting last Thursday and final adoption this coming Thursday, advancing our transportation capital improvements plan as an update, which is something we do about every 5 years. And that's really about looking at those priorities that have been accomplished, the MSA Thruway, Freedom Road, Rochester Road, and then starting to look at what's next, and where are we going in the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years. So we're never one to rest and be satisfied with what's happening in today. We're always looking for the next projects and where priorities ought to be in the future.
Well, I know people would be mad if I didn't ask. Dan, are you able to shed some light on what could be coming down the pipe, or are we in too early of stages to talk about that yet?
No, I'm happy. I think that the primary focus in moving forward is really going to be the Rochester Road corridor, in completion of the Rochester Road corridor. For a long, long time here, the Freedom Road corridor, since the days of Crow's Run 30 plus years ago, the Freedom Road corridor has always been a focus of the township. It was an already developed corridor, so to go back in and try and make those improvements after the facts when you don't have developers like we did on the 228 side of the corridor makes it more challenging to get that funding together. But we've been successful there. We've been successful on the 228 corridor, but that was in large part due to partnerships with new development activities. The priorities will likely shift to the Rochester Road corridor. We're getting a portion of that done with the first section between Route 19 and the Turnpike Bridge. We all know the big sort of constricting point in the township is that the tunnel under, or the underpass underneath of the Pennsylvania Turnpike. And we really want to get focused on that and begin to think about how we accomplish a widening there. And then continuing all of in addition to the Rochester Road corridor, continuing all the technology updates, the adaptive signal system that we have throughout the township, which coordinates traffic signals up and down the Route 19 corridor, along the 228 corridor, along the Freedom Road corridor. Continue to stay up to date on that technology. And then to begin, again, to continue to focus on those areas that are experiencing growth and where we need some additional capacity or transportation infrastructure improvements.
I will say I was recently in the traffic control center. I like to call it the war room, but I think there's been more monitors in since I was last there in 2019. I think you guys might manage the longest stretch of traffic light system I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, if for those who haven't seen our traffic operations center, the war room, I would encourage them to reach out to the township. We're happy to show off to our residents and businesses, how hard we work at managing traffic and how much effort and time and dollars, candidly, that go into that effort, so that our objective is always to squeeze every ounce of traffic through that pipe, if you will, as efficient as possible, to make sure that those signals are working in coordination and we're efficiently managing that traffic. So we put a lot of effort, time, and very proud of that system that has been built over the years, again, based in partnerships and grant fundings, and creative ways in order to get it done.
No, for sure. And actually, we featured, the traffic control system in a Faces and Places episode, a couple years back, and I'll include that link inside this episode in case people want a further deeper dive in learning, the day-to-day operations of what it takes to manage a traffic system for a township this size.
Yes, thank you. Please do that, because we would encourage folks who don't know about that system to go take a look. It's pretty impressive.
Is there something that you promised yourself that you'd start or see to the finish in 2021 as one of your early goals?
The township and the board of supervisors we have always been sort of aggressive in terms of those future goals and achieving what's next, staying in front of the planning process. I would say that my personal goal was, when you follow a legend like Jerry Andree, you have to demonstrate confidence and continuity and consistency. So one of my personal goals was that people don't see a difference, or we don't miss a beat. And I'm certainly not Jerry and not going to attempt to be, but I wanted to make sure that the continuity was there. Folks aren't seeing a difference in how their local government operates on their behalf. So that was one personal goal. But in terms of bigger pictures goal, is to continue that planning and that planning process, and continuing to strive to look forward. As I mentioned, the Transportation Capital Improvements Plan update. We have some conversation going on around in the community right now with regard to some zoning changes, but looking towards the future and continuing to implement the Cranberry Plan that has been long the focus of Cranberry Township, and continue that planning and advancing the implementation of those goals that were laid out in that plan by the community.
How big was it for you to have a couple years? Well, it's been more than a couple years, but being able to be under Jerry so that you could learn and make that transition as smooth as possible. And truly, you haven't missed a beat. The township hasn't missed a beat. And I know that, you've supported yourself with back rolling, to people to learn under your guidance and, just to continue what the Cranberry Township way is.
Yeah, you just really can't underestimate the value of succession planning. The ability to be alongside Jerry for this, I think it's just over 3 years I've been back. I was gone for about 10 years after my early career with Cranberry. This last 3 years, just over 3 years with Jerry, it's been sort of invaluable. I came back with the eye towards succession planning. That was certainly the conversation, though there was no commitment, right? You can't. The board had to make that decision along the way, but you really can't. I can't give enough credit to the board of supervisors and to Jerry thinking about succession planning for this community. Jerry, as a mentor, and the board bringing me in and being right alongside them, being intimate with the decisions and policy discussion that's going on, and just knowing where the community was, how those decisions were made over the last several years has just really improved or made for just such a smooth transition, and allowing us to continue on for Cranberry to be the great community that it is, and strive to excellence and always improve and always looking to do better.
A few hot topics have come up recently in the township, one being the pinhole leaks in pipes of resident homes, and the second being the missing middle housing ordinance. Residents have been very vocal, and the board has been working on addressing concerns. Would you like to talk about more about the steps being taken to meet resident needs and concerns?
Yeah, sure. Maybe I'll start with the latter first, the missing middle housing, and then come back to pinhole leaks. But we have obviously seen a lot of community conversation going on in social media around the missing middle housing. We have certainly had our share of contact and interaction with residents in the community with regard to that proposal. And really trying to do as much as we can to listen, but also explain where we're at. This is not a new concept. This is really implementation of the focus and goal of the Cranberry Plan that was adopted back in 2009. In terms of a recommendation of providing for more mixed-use housing, because that's what's in the best long-term, sustainable, fiscally responsible approach to Cranberry Township growth. And so this is really implementation. And while some folks are now maybe just catching up or weren't involved in that planning process back then, we want to make sure that we're listening to those folks. So as our board always has done, is we've taken the opportunity to listen and say, okay, we still need to achieve the objectives, the long-term objectives of mixed-use housing in this community, a sustainable, fiscally responsible approach to that housing. But we'll listen to folks and say, how can we do that in a way that addresses their concerns and listens to their concerns, but again, achieving that overall goal. The goal is that affordable housing, I would say more affordable variety housing. For the last 3 decades, Cranberry's really built single family homes, 4-bedroom, 3-bath on a individual lot, right? So we're heavily weighted towards that. The goal is really providing for diversification of that type of housing. And yes, folks see some of the new development and see some of that going on and say, isn't that enough? But when you really think about the last 3 decades and really consider what's happened in the last few years, really the last 5, at most 10 years of the variety of housing, the answer is no. I mean, we really need to have a diversification of housing type so that we're not all weighted too heavy in one type of housing. We study the life cycle of communities. Those communities that survive the best are those that have that diversification. Not unlike a diversification of your investment portfolio, right? Long term. So we're going to step back and listen, but still the goal is to achieve the the big picture, long range plan of Cranberry Township in diversifying our housing stock, because that makes sense long term. That makes sense 10, 15, 20, and 30 years from now. With regard to pinhole leaks, it's an interesting topic. It is not a topic unique to Cranberry Township. We seem to become the focus of it here recently. That's with regard, and that's because of a couple of residents that have brought that topic to light. I will tell you that I've been in communication with those residents, and they will admit readily to you, this is not a Cranberry Township issue. This is a much larger issue. It's an issue that happens across the country. There's some question as to whether it's relative to, cheap products and material, thinner walled copper, if you will, water quality, which I can tell you it's not. So there's been this focus, and when you talk to the residents who are sort of advancing that topic with the township, they will tell you that they express, while it's not a Cranberry Township only issue, they're looking for Cranberry Township to lead, if you will, on that initiative, to look for ways to help and address their concerns, right? And it's a challenging topic. It's a challenging issue. It's to some extent, it's a wear and tear issue, not unlike other wear and tear items within your house. Though folks don't consider copper as one of those things that should wear. You'd readily think your refrigerator or your washer and your dryer is going to break down, or that you're going to have to replace your shingles on your roof, or the faucets in your bathrooms on a regular basis. Those are wear and tear items that you typically think about in a home. People don't think about copper that way. So that's part of the challenge. So we really are going to try and continue to address the concerns of residents, educate with regard to what they can do in order to be more diligent, but also communicate in a way that it's not, again, just a Cranberry issue. A quick Google search will show you that it happens all across the country, in Georgia and California and in Texas, and it's everywhere. So so we'll continue to work with those residents and try and find solutions, but at the same time recognize that there's nothing unique to Cranberry Township with regard to that issue.
Well, I appreciate the open and honest feedback, because there were a lot of residents that were coming out of the woodworks there, and I also saw a lot of maps and drawings and everything else that there could be about the missing middle housing there. I learned way too much during the past few months about it, but I will say this is that kudos go back to the board and to yourself for pulling this back and seeing how we can best fit the plan to the township and our overall goal moving forward.
Yeah, the board is always receptive and open and wants to listen to, again, the community and what their needs and wishes are. So we'll find ways to accomplish the goal, but at the same time mitigate to the extent possible, the concerns of folks that are raised.
2020 was a rough year for everyone. 2021 is starting to shed some light at the end of the tunnel, no pun intended. The Cranberry Township Community Chest has recently announced that Community Days is returning after being canceled last year. How big of a deal is it to hear these types of announcements and know we're on track for some form of normalcy later this year?
Wow, we just, folks are really, for their mental and physical health, really looking for things to do, and we all know that, right? So those types of announcements are met with very positive feedback from the community. Now, I will say, and I do need to be a little cautious here, is that we are planning as if we're going forward with Community Days, and it is our hope and our intent that it will be a full-scale Community Days, and we expect that will be the case, though we will follow the state guidelines with regard to gatherings outdoor, and we're really hopeful that we're in a much different place in the second week of July when Community Days is scheduled. But I got to tell you, folks are really chomping at the bit. We see it now in the parks, if you will. With the warm weather here, just on Saturday, parks were packed. Folks are looking for things to do. We've all had a long year of, sheltering in place and sequestering and not going places and not seeing loved ones. So I think it's being received very well, and I think it's good for us from a both mental and physical perspective. So we're excited. We're keeping our fingers crossed. We're really hopeful we can really have a pretty significant event this year, like in past years.
Our business owners deserve a lot of credit for everything they had to endure this past year. You have to feel fortunate that very few businesses closed in the township, and I'm sure there are still plans to recruit more businesses to open 2021 and beyond.
Yeah, it's been a tough year for businesses, and you really feel for those folks who put their blood, sweat, and tears into their businesses and try and make it go, and they have struggled had such a hard year in terms of operating a business. But yeah, we are fortunate in Cranberry. I mean, we've lost a few businesses and others have struggled. I think there was lots of efforts to try and assist folks, and keeping them afloat with some of the programs that were out there. And yes, we are looking for ways in communicating about how we can support our local businesses here and highlight those local businesses from an economic development and perspective and community perspective. So we're excited as restrictions are loosened, that that businesses will come back and come back quickly, and we can get back to some sense of normal. And hopefully, the majority of those businesses that have been hurting so bad can find a way to recover and open up their doors again and be successful.
For sure. What is the most important message that you have wanted to share with the public, but haven't been able to do so since we're not able to have large gatherings?
Yeah, so I would say that we're still open for business, right? Pandemic or no pandemic, the business of local government, providing your public safety, police, fire, EMS, your sewer, your water, your roads, hasn't stopped. We are here. We've been trying to listen to our needs in our community. An exciting program that we started at the beginning of the pandemic last spring was a community response team, listening for where there were needs and how we could help community, because believe it or not, there are pockets of need in Cranberry. So that's been a great effort. So, but we're still here. We're open for business, and that hopefully, if you have some needs, you can reach out. We can help you at the township in any way we can, certainly to do that. But hopefully we'll get back to normal business as normal with recreational programs, because it has impacted some of our programs, obviously. Our recreational programming, banquets and facilities, golf course and things like that. But the day-to-day quarter services of the township never skipped a beat. We were out there 24/7 providing those services. So we're here for you, and we'll continue to be here for you.
Any last words for our listeners, or something we may not have covered, Dan?
No, Seth, I really appreciate the opportunity to connect with you again. And Armstrong, you're such a great partner to Cranberry Township. We're excited about our relationship. We're excited about the most recent announcement in terms of the amphitheater and the sponsorship that Armstrong has so graciously been willing to provide to the township. So we thank you and your leadership, and look forward to that continued relationship long term. So
we look forward to doing so as well, and we're honored to have the privilege to partner with you on the amphitheater. I think that's going to be a centerpiece for the community for years to come, and so excited to see it completed, and can't wait for the ribbon cutting later this spring.
We're excited also. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Dan, for taking time out of your schedule to be here. Wish you the best in the new role as Township Manager, and look forward to seeing the great things you'll do for Cranberry Township.
Thanks, Seth.
For Armstrong in the Loop podcast, I'm Seth Prentice, keeping you in the loop. Are you enjoying Armstrong in the Loop podcast? Great news!
All past and current episodes are available on popular streaming apps and websites. Search Armstrong in the Loop podcast and subscribe today.